Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate. Sorry, I'm just looking at my screen. It's saying things to me. Okay, so I went on my little tangent yesterday, and then I did my shout out for National Runaway Prevention, and I did my green lights, and so did all my neighbors, so yay us. And then I also just wanted to just correct a few things here, okay? Because I was like, people are going to be like, Lisa, you're a little crazy sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, I know. First of all, I already know that Yellowstone is in Montana bordering Wyoming, so let's just start there. I know that, but I talked about Texas, and they're like, does she know her geography? Yes, I do. I'm from Canada. So we learn all of it. So yes, I do. And I also have an amazing friend that most of you who have followed along and listened with me know that my friend Greg, who's been on the show, also is a long haul truck driver. So he keeps me educated too, on the different states and cities and even little towns that I've never even heard of in the States. And he tells me we're like some really cool stuff, like where all the good places to eat certain types of food in the South or in the North, or what's good in, North Dakota versus South Dakota and stuff like that. So I get like really cool geography lessons from Greg. So yay, Greg. So anyway, there's that. And then there was also, when we talked about women in the work world, especially what's going on with our premier, and I talked about different things. So as we know, everything is strategy in business. Everything is strategy. But there are skills that are strategic in nature based on your interpersonal skills. And let me tell you something. When I was younger, I did not score high on interpersonal skills. I was like, fuck your feelings. And there's parts of me that element still kind of exists, because to me, business is not supposed to be emotional. And I remember when I was going through my separation, my awful separation, the one piece of advice a lawyer gave me, because most people don't do it, right? We're all like emotional fucking creatures. But he said to me, treat this like a business deal. That's how you have to treat it. You have to go through the numbers, go through the assets, and treat it like a business. Do not have any emotion. Do not allow anything to trigger you, because the minute you put emotions into it, you cannot make proper, decisions. You can't make sound decisions because your emotions cloud your judgment. And it's true in everything, right? Which is funny, because during my separation, I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of emotions. I had a lot of big feelings. I did. I was like, this motherfucker right here. But I got through it because there were other things I needed to focus on. Now, one thing that I can take from this that I think, we all go through different things in life, but, it was interesting because when I had to make a decision for my dad, it was easy, which should have been the most emotionally stunting decision of my life, to pull him off life support. And it wasn't. I treated it like business, which is interesting to me, that when it comes to certain relationships or romantic relationships, I'm kind of like, I kind of flounder a bit. But when it comes to medical decisions, doesn't matter whether you're family, friends, whatever, because I work really well under pressure. But if the pressure is affecting something where the stakes are a little higher, in the sense of like my children. So I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for my kids. So I got highly emotional. And even now I find myself getting highly emotional when it comes to my children. But when it comes to their schooling and teachers, I'm not. I'm very logical. I'm very the approach is, my kids come home and be like, the teacher's not nice, the teacher's this. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to find out, because there's always two sides to every story. So that's kind of the way I look at it. As I said to myself, don't go in there like that parent that's like guns a-blazing and like, my kid said blah, blah. I'm like, help me understand the situation here. My children have indicated this. Help me understand, because there's always two sides, right? So when I had to take my dad off life support, it was, I need all the information, because information is power. It's knowledge, right? The more information you have, the more you can make a sound decision, which is one of the things I do in my advocacy for what I do, right? So they gave me all the information. So I had to sit there with it and go, okay. So my dad is basically a quadriplegic at 73 years old with horrific rheumatoid arthritis. He's already grumpy. He's an alcoholic. He's going to have brain damage, because they couldn't resuscitate him they don't know how long he was down for, at least 20 minutes to half an hour prior to ambulance getting there. Something like that. Like, he had at least, between the ambulance getting to him and him getting to the hospital, there was at least a 20-minute to 30-minute resuscitation time. That's brain damage. So I'm like, I can't do that to my father. I can't. He was basically dead when they got there, if we're being honest. Like, I mean, it's fucking blunt, but it's true. When they got there, he wasn't breathing. His neck was broken. It was done. And based on all of the proper medical terms, which I won't go into all of everything because it was, it was a hard day. I didn't cry right away. I just went in, I got the information, I looked at them. Even the doctors were shocked when I'm like, okay, so what I'm hearing is he's got zero quality of life. He's an older man. He lives in a basement. He can't go back. He's basically going to be a vegetable or on a machine for a long time and kind of be inside, but not really. Like, the lights are on, but somebody's kind of home. I'm like, this is ridiculous. You guys had to resuscitate him. He's actually considered a DNR, and he's an organ donor. So let's not waste these machines on my dad. Somebody else needs them more than him. And I appreciate everything you guys have come to me with. And the doctors were a little bit gobsmacked that I was so quick to decide. And they were like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you've given me all the information. I have to, if I love my father, I will give him some mercy in his end of days. I'm not going to have my selfishness or somebody else's selfishness keep him on machines where he could possibly wake up and be in a worse state than he was. To me, that's not being humane. It's not being compassionate. It's being selfish. And I needed to be selfless in that moment and say, you had a good run, Dad, but it is what it is, and I can't fix this one, and neither can you. And I don't wish you to have this life. Now, they didn't know he was a DNR, because had they known that, then they wouldn't have tried to resuscitate him so hard in the car. And so I thank the paramedics and the doctors and all the staff in the hospitals that worked really hard to try and bring my dad back. But at the end of the day, it was his time to go. And so that was a hard decision, but I made it. Now, I did cry when I see my dad. I went and saw him, and he was hooked up to all these machines, and I held his hand. And even though me and my dad had a fucking wickedly tumultuous relationship, and I called my dad out on his shit, and he was a tyrant when I was a kid, it doesn't negate the fact that he's my father. And so I went and I held his hand, and I told him that I couldn't fix it, and that it had to be what it was going to be. So, and I stayed with him, until he died, and I called my brother, and I called his family, and I called everybody, and I made the decision with my brother, but my brother wasn't there. I basically dictated to my brother what needed to happen based on the information that I had, and my brother didn't disagree with me. So that's kind of how that went. But those are hard decisions to make. And so that's when I say to you, there's strategy and skill around how you do things and to take the emotion out of it. So those are some stories about how emotions can impact you, and how when you don't have all of the emotion clouding you, that you can move forward to make the right decisions, sound decisions that are that are designed to be, compassion filled and truth, right? So if you start moving with emotion, a lot of times it's anger, right? It's anger fueled. People start pointing fingers and blaming. Like, I'll give you an example. The Teachers Association. A lot of people for the Teachers Association. First of all, let's just say this. I'm in support of it, okay? My kids go to a chartered school, and they operate off of more of a privatized aspect. But I'm like the last person, because of where my kids go and the fact that they weren't impacted by this, where I should be like, most people would think I was on the other side going, well, not my problem, blah, blah, blah. But it is my problem, because I grew up in public school system. I watch all my friends and their children go through public school system. And I'm also an Albertan, and I want to, that's the masses. They're in the public school sector. Now, chartered is still a I would say more of like a semi-privatized aspect. They are privatized in their own way, but they're not, you have to apply for funding, and they don't always get it. So what happens is people just start pointing fingers. And the reality is, yes, we know she wants to privatize everything, but what else can we do? And the teachers wrote an elaborate list. And this is where, I even had conversations with some of the faculty at the school. And I said, how are your teachers doing? Are you guys okay? Like, this is very impactful for a lot of people. And, I want to know, are your teachers, do they feel supported by, by everybody? And they have a great school. My kids go to a great school. They really do. And I'm really proud of the way the education is dispersed in the school, and how the syllabuses look, and the teachers, and how committed they are to the students for the most part. And the principal and the faculty that's there that, does a lot of the administrative, they're all really great people, and they're very supportive of each other, which is what you want. You want people to be supportive at work. And it upsets me because a lot of people are pointing fingers and saying private, 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 but they can't control that. They can't control the government. They can put the request out, and if the government says yes, they say yes. If they say no, they say no. They don't always get the funding. Now, I'm not paying $10,000 a year for my kids to go to school. So there's that, right? I'm not paying that. Some of the people that are paying those things, maybe those privatized organizations, there's a little bit more, shoulder rubbing, because you're paying $10,000 a year for your kids to go to school from like pre-K all the way up to like high school, right? Like when I was looking into those, it's like $5,000 for like the first 3 years, and it goes to 10, then it goes to 15, then it goes to 20 and up to 25,000 for private school. I don't pay that shit. Okay? That's fucking expensive. So, we call those like prep schools, right? So I ain't in that fucking tax bracket. So, there's that. But I just believe that we are all one, and we all need to stand together. Whether my kids go to a charter school or not, I have to stand with the Teachers Association and say, Jesus Christ, if the Premier would have just came at them with 75%, there would have been more room. I don't believe she negotiated in good faith, and I will stand on that. I don't believe she negotiated in good faith. She didn't put, pen to paper and say, this is what we're going to do for you. For me, 89% said kick rocks. And that's too big to turn and sneer at. Because if teachers really didn't feel so strongly about all the things they were asking for, the ratios would have been grossly different. It would have been completely disproportionate. It would have been like 50 say yes, and the other, 40 whatever percent or 50% say no, or 60 or 70. Like it wasn't. It was 89% were like kick rocks. That to me speaks volumes, and it should to all of you. And then to be railroaded and to utilize Section 33, and like I'm very scared in a very interesting way. Like not scared that everything's going to fall apart, not scared like I'm nail biting or my anxiety's up, just scared as in like it's setting a precedent of things to come, and that's a little nerve-wracking. I don't try to push forward on what could come because I don't want to put myself in that bubble. But I'm also optimistic to the fact that we as Albertans are going to push forward and get what we need to get done in order for this not to be a thing anymore. Whether we have to overturn people or start, recalling people or whatever we need to do to make enough noise, enough of an impact to say, not okay. But at the same time, I'm also like, I'm grateful for my eyes being opened and we get to see the true colors that these people are and at what lengths they're willing to go to. So those are just two things, but I wanted to say like it is a strategy, but it's also a skill for interpersonal, and don't let your emotions cloud you. I say that. I got to practice what I preach to, so don't think I'm up here all fucking holy and mighty and I'm like, I don't get emotional. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And most people be like, well, you're a female. Actually, males get more emotional than females. It's just in a different way. It's just shown differently. Like there was a joke that would go around. We used to call it NHL. Girls would get like PMS and boys would get NHL, right? So it's like, have you ever seen a man with a hockey game when his team loses? It's like all those feelings that come out of him are how we're feeling inside. Same thing. Same. So we just don't resort to rage. So some of us do. Some women do, but I don't. I'm pretty blessed with my female anatomy in certain aspects. I say that, but it's like, Lisa, you had breast cancer. Man, I have more than that. But anyways, it is what it is. But I do feel blessed because I've seen there's a lot of women out there that go through a lot of different things. And I'm telling you, I always think it's funny when I see these reels where it's like a guy will stick his face in his partner's ass, but then he can't talk about his feelings. Like, how does that happen? Or, and it makes me laugh. Or girls can talk about periods, but guys will watch like someone get completely annihilated, blood, guts, and gore all the way through a movie and be like, this is fucking awesome. But a girl talks about her period and they're like, ew. like it's just it's really funny to me. So I do find that really quite amusing because I mean, like I can watch blood, guts, and gore, but I can't watch like the paranormal shit. Freaks me out. I think it's because I know that there's truth to it. So I'm like, ew, no. But I always find that funny. There's not too many women I know that are mothers, and some that aren't mothers, some that are, just, they have they have a good stomach that doesn't bother them. Like, it always makes me laugh when I see things where like a baby will like throw up, or a baby, or even like a person will throw up or will like defecate in their pants or shit their pants like a little baby, right? And like, when babies, and that comes like right up their back, and you can see dad and they're like, whoa. You're like, and I'm like, dude, you stick your face in your girlfriend's butt, but you can't handle a baby with the shit up its back. Like, what's your deal, bro? I just find it funny. Anyways, on the lighter side of things, don't be emotional. I'm just kidding. I just think that when you're dealing with business stuff, emotions, although bring out the passion that you have for it, there has to be a fine balance between it. So yes, there is strategy in everything, and especially with game boards and this, that, and the other thing, there is strategy. But what I'm saying is people come off of those ideals of what the strategy should be and put it more into the interpersonal aspect. So like the personalities, listening, actually active listening, not just, yeah, but active listening, and pick apart. And don't, you know what a lot of us are guilty of? Listening to respond, not listening to hear. So don't do that. Listen to, I say don't do that. I've done it. I do it all the time. I shouldn't say I do it all the time now. I don't. But I used to do it all the time. And now I find myself, nope, wait, listen to the whole thing. They might answer it for themselves. Stop cutting people off. Now my significant will be like, nah, she still does that shit. And I'm like, that's different. That's different. You a different commodity. When I'm dealing with clients and people and all that, you're not a person. You my person. So I'm gonna bust your chops. Because I could tell you if he was on here, he'd be like, she fucking lying. But we're all different with our person. We let our guards down, and we show them who, all the things we don't get to do in a day and how we have to conduct ourselves. They get to see all of that mess. But then a lot of times, that's what they love about us. They love that we can just be honest and a little bit messy and be ourselves. And that's, I think, the one thing that we do miss too in relationships, is that we spend so much time with a mask or armor on, trying to, well, not just trying, but actually being who we need to be in order to get jobs done or get tasks done, or, be able to deal with society in general. And then, we go home and we let this down. And there's some people that, they never really saw that side of us, especially when there's so much chaos and turmoil in the world. And now all of a sudden they're seeing this side of us feeling depleted and empty and angry and frustrated, and they don't know how to deal with it. And then they're like, well, I don't know this person. And it's like, you do know this person. This is just another side of this person that is feeling a lot of big feelings, male or female, gay or trans, whatever you are. They're feeling all of these things, and they're having a lot of emotional upheavals. And at that point, it just comes down to holding space for them. Sometimes it's not about acceptance in the way you look at it. Like, I need to just deal with this. No, you just need to hold some space for your person. They're having a hard day. And if they want you to talk with them, then they should be saying, what do you think? Or what is your opinion? Because a lot of times, like, none of us are fucking mind readers. And I love how people are like, you should just know. I say that just to be an asshole sometimes to my significant. I'm like, you should just know. You know what you did. You know why. And but then we both laugh about it because we know it's a joke. Because a lot of women are really guilty of that, where they're like, he should just know what to get me. He should just know what to do. She should just know. And not everybody's that perceptive of you as a person, or do they know that you really want that in that moment? Because there's times where we as women are like, I don't want flowers. I don't like flowers. And then we're sitting there like, I really want some flowers. And then he doesn't know that because you've told him for like 3 years that you don't want flowers and you don't like flowers. And then you're like, I just really want some flowers. And they're like, you fucking told me never to buy you flowers, so I never did it. And then, you know what I mean? You see where that goes? So it's educating your partner on what you want in that moment. You know what? I always said I didn't want flowers, but today I could really use some flowers. I'm really feeling some sort of way, and I just want to feel special. Okay, that's an easy fix, right? So, and most guys like cheat sheets, because the last thing most men don't like chaos. Some men like chaos, but most men don't like chaos. Women hate chaos, but they always feel like they have to be in it in order to get something done. I have to create a hostile situation in order for them to get it. And it's because they will try, it's like men aren't good with subtleties. You got to be like, I want flowers today. I feel like shit. I want to feel special. Give me flowers today. And I don't like lilies. I like carnations. Or I don't like carnations. I like roses. Or I like fire and ice roses, which is red and white roses. You don't have to get the roses that are both the red and the white. They're really expensive. Just get me red and white roses. Like, be fucking specific. Detail. It's like when I tell people, blow cinnamon through your door and tell it what you want. Be specific. Same thing with men. Be specific. Or even just with your person, whether it's male or female. Just be specific. We're not mind readers. I know that if my person, like, he does the I'm fine thing, I fucking hate that. Let me tell you what his I'm fine means. Because it's when men always make jokes. Oh, when women say they're fine, they're not fine. Neither are you guys. I'm fine. And it's all on tone. I'm fine. No, you're not. You're just saying you're fine so that I won't pry and dig and then cause you to have an emotional upheaval or have some big feelings about the situation you're in. So you say I'm fine so you can block the conversation. That's what men do. Because they don't want to have big feelings. Because they've been browbeat not to have big feelings. And they don't want to be seen as weak. That's how most of them are. But I'm sitting here going, just tell me what the fuck is wrong with you so we can carry on and move on in life. And we can just have a chat about it. But no, it has to get to a point where I'm like halfway losing my marbles about something. And not screaming, just being like, listen, if this is what it's going to be, maybe you just need to take some time on your own and think about, like, I don't want that. I don't want that. And it's like, and then he tells me things and I'm like, why does it have to fucking get to that? Why can't you just be like, I'm having some big feelings about these things? But men will never say that. They'll be like, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or this pissed me off, or this person pissed me off. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's talk about it. He's getting better. But he's part of that generation that was like, you know, like, fuck your feelings and everybody's a puss if they talk about it. So it's like trying to deprogram that aspect out of him. Not that I'm not accepting him for who he is, but letting him know that it's a safe space, that I'm not going to judge him. I'm not going to tell him that he's a weak man, that I'm not going to say you're such a fucking crybaby, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to honor his feelings, sit with him and let him have the conversation. And if I need to respond, I'll respond. If I won't, I won't. He would tell you she'll respond. She always has a fucking opinion. Duh, I have a microphone. And sometimes they're like, I don't want your fucking opinion. Some of us women are just made to have opinions. It just is what it is. And we just genuinely love you and we want to help fix things sometimes too. So it is what it is. Anywho, it's my little tangent for the day. If there's anything, oh, you know what? I actually had some more people come on. Sorry, they're coming on. I'm trying to think here. I'm like looking around like a crazy person. I actually have some people that have reached out that I think are going to be really cool. I like cool people that want to talk about, because not only inside the trade space, we also, because I deal with property, so I bring on people that deal with property aspects, so real estate, property manager, whatnot. I bring those kind of people on because they also give different perspective, and I love perspectives. Everything is perspective, so I love hearing different perspective. So that's going to probably go on in the next couple weeks, but other than that, that's kind of where we're at. I started writing a book. And I don't know. I'm rereading it right now and I'm like, I gotta change some shit, make it funny. So everybody writes books, but I think I need something that's going to be light and easy to read and funny as hell, because I think we just need more of that. So Alberta, have an amazing day and keep being all of the wonderful fighters that you are. I love the passion that comes out of Alberta. I do, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, I do love the passion that we do have as Albertans. And I appreciate it so much more when we all come together as one. And for the rest of the world, keep doing amazing things and come on and tell me your stories, because I'd love to hear them. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Catch you on the flip side. And as always, don't do anything crazy, but maybe if it merits it, do it, you know?